Now, if you've ever tried making paper beads with just whatever paper was lying around your craft room, and you got one bead that was just absolutely gorgeous, and another bead that looked like it was having a minor emotional crisis, well, this video is for you. Today I'm going to try and save you a little frustration and walk through some of my favorite papers for making paper beads. Especially if you want to use what you already have lying around the house, you want to make absolutely beautiful beads and save some money doing your craft while you're at it. I mean, some of my favorite beads have come from papers that other people would have just thrown in the trash. And before we jump in, if you're brand new to paper beading, I do make the tools and supplies that you'll need to make gorgeous paper beads that you'll find over at paperbeadrollers.com. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss all the tutorials as soon as they come out. All right, let's jump right in.
Number 1, wallpaper samples. Now, wallpaper samples are one of my favorite papers for paper beads because they usually have a little substance to them. They're often thicker and they have larger sheets than regular paper. They tend to have beautiful designer patterns, and a lot of them have texture or specialty finishes that make the finished bead look extra nice. Now, if you want a bead that feels substantial and has a higher end look to it, wallpaper is a really fun paper to work with. Now, because wallpaper is made for durability, I like to use it on home decor projects. Most wallpaper is already water resistant, so you don't necessarily have to coat them with a glaze. It's a good paper to use when you're making projects that have a vintage look, like this beaded snowflake ornament. It's not my first choice for tiny, delicate beads because most wallpaper is so bulky, but for focal beads, it's perfect. If you can get your hands on an old sample book or leftover wallpaper samples, do not overlook them. They can make some really gorgeous beads. Number 2, cardstock. Cardstock is one of the most dependable papers you can use for paper beads. If somebody asked me what paper to start with if they're brand new, cardstock would absolutely be near the top of the list. It's sturdy, it cuts cleanly, it rolls nicely, and it comes in pretty much every color under the sun. If you want control over your color palette, or you're making beads for a specific project and you need the colors to coordinate perfectly, cardstock makes that really easy. I also love cardstock because the thickness is predictable. If you're learning how the cut, length, and thickness of paper strips affect your finished bead shape, cardstock is a really nice paper to practice with because it gives you a consistent result. It's thick enough to make a bulky, sturdy bead, but usually not so thick that it becomes difficult to roll. Most cardstock is coated, which provides a smooth, even surface for painting your own designs before you cut it into strips. And whether you like smooth, modern beads, bright, colorful beads, or more elegant, solid color designs, cardstock can do all of it. Now, they're not sponsoring this video, but I will tell you that my favorite cardstock is Recollection 62-pound cardstock from Michaels. It has all of the features I just mentioned and comes in just about every color you could want. 3, election mailers. Now let's talk about one of my favorite trash to treasure papers, election mailers. If you live in the US, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These things show up in stacks, and by the time election season is over, you've got enough political mail to wallpaper your whole house if you wanted to. Election mailers are actually great for paper beads because they're usually printed on a medium weight glossy paper with lots of bold color, photos, and graphic elements. That means they'll roll nicely, and they can create really interesting beads with unexpected color combinations. Some of them have gradients, rich backgrounds, or blocks of color that look much prettier once they're cut into strips than they ever did sitting in your mailbox. The only real catch is that you may need to cut strategically if you don't want random text or half of a politician's forehead on your bead. But if you enjoy upcycling and making something beautiful out of something you didn't ask for in the first place, election mailers are absolutely worth saving. Number 4, large food boxes. Large food boxes are one of the best everyday papers for paper beads because they're already in your house and reusing it helps our environment. They're usually made from a workable, lightweight cardboard or cardstock. Think cereal boxes, cracker boxes, pasta boxes, snack boxes, those kinds of packages. They've got enough body to make a sturdy bead, but they're still really easy to cut and roll. Now, what I especially like about food boxes is that you can use either side depending on the look you want. The printed outside can give you bright colors, graphics, and interesting little pops of color. The plain inside can be painted, inked, stamped, or just use as is if you want something simple. Food boxes are also great for practicing because they're sturdy and forgiving. You don't feel like you're wasting precious paper if a bead doesn't turn out exactly how you wanted. Number 5, magazine pages. Magazine pages are probably one of the most classic papers for paper beads, and for good reason. They're colorful, they're easy to find, and they roll beautifully. Magazine paper is very thin, which means it's really nice for tiny beads or long, thin beads, or just beads where you don't want a lot of bulk. And because many magazine pages have a glossy finish, the beads can come out looking smooth and polished, even before you glaze them. One of the things I love the most about magazine paper is that it teaches you to look at paper differently. A page that's kind of boring on its own can make a stunning paper bead once you cut it into strips and roll it. A photo with soft color blending can turn into a bead with beautiful gradients. And a bright advertisement page can give you bold, high contrast color. Magazine paper is especially fun if you like a little surprise in your bead making because you don't know exactly what the finished bead will look like until it's rolled. And no two beads will look the same, even when they come from the same page. Number 6, paper bags. Paper bags are wonderful if you like a more natural, rustic, earthy style. They make beads that feel handmade in the best possible way. Grocery bags, craft paper bags, and even gift bags can work well for paper beads. And they have a completely different personality than glossy magazine pages or bright pattern papers. Paper bag beads tend to feel warm, organic, and a little more relaxed, which I really love. Plain paper bags make a great base for adding your own designs. You can stamp them, ink them, paint them, distress them, write on them, or just leave them plain if you love that craft paper look. Bags do vary in thickness, so you can choose the right one for the style of bead you want to make. You do want to watch for creases or wrinkles if the bag has been folded a lot, but honestly, sometimes that texture just adds character. If you love neutral tones, boho jewelry, farmhouse style, or beads that look a little more artisan and less polished, paper bags are a great paper to experiment with. Number 7, pattern paper. Pattern paper is just plain fun. If you've got scrapbook paper, decorative craft paper, paper pads, or specialty printed sheets hiding in your craft room, they can make beautiful paper beads. And the big advantage here is that you get to be really intentional about the look of your bead. You're not at the mercy of whatever color happens to be on a magazine page. You can choose florals, plaids, holiday designs, sheet music, maps. They even make glitter paper. There is a pattern paper for just about any look you can imagine in your head. Pattern paper is also one of the easiest ways to make beads that feel coordinated and designed. So if you're making a necklace and earring set, seasonal decor, ornaments, or a themed project, pattern paper makes it so much easier to get that cohesive look. It's even sold in books of coordinating patterns and colors that will work great together. Thickness can vary depending on the paper. Some pattern paper is closer to copy paper feel. Some is more like a cardstock. So the way it rolls may change a little depending on the paper you choose. But that's part of the fun. It gives you a lot of room to experiment. And if you're the kind of person who buys pretty paper because it's pretty to use, this is your sign to use it. Number 8, wrapping paper. Wrapping paper is one of those supplies that doesn't always get enough credit in the paper bead world. It can be absolutely beautiful for beads, especially if you have wrapping paper with metallic details or very small prints. And if you're like me and you hate throwing away pretty scraps after a birthday or Christmas, wrapping paper is a great way to give those leftovers a second life. Small patterns work best for colorful beads, but wrapping paper with large patterns can make very pretty solid color beads as well. Now, wrapping paper can be all over the place when it comes to thickness and quality, so you may need to play around a little. Some wrapping paper is very thin and delicate, which can still work, but it may need a little extra care while rolling. I especially like wrapping paper when I want something decorative and lightweight, or when I'm making seasonal beads and want those festive patterns. It's a great way to use the stubborn leftover pieces, that just don't work with any of the presents you're wrapping. So those are 8 of my favorite papers to use for paper beads: wallpaper samples, cardstock, election mailers, large food boxes, magazine pages, paper bags, pattern paper, and wrapping paper. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that you don't really need fancy supplies to make beautiful paper beads. Some of the best paper bead papers are already in your house. You just haven't looked at them through the paper beading eyes yet. The fun part is figuring out what each paper does well. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, now I want to try all of them, I got you. If you need paper bead rollers or other supplies to help make the process easier, I've linked my favorites below. If you got a favorite paper that I didn't mention, tell me in the comments because I always love hearing what you're rolling. And I'll see you in the next video.